A very good evening. You're watching Primetime News on TV1, live and direct from our Newsfirst studios in Colombo. Bringing you the news, I'm Jadabdin.
And I'm Rochelle Pramodara. Let's start off with a look at our headlines for tonight.
Is Palavatta running the government? JVP General Secretary Tilvin responds. Shani removed from CID 4 days after Gotabe's presidency. Arrested and remanded within a month. Supreme Court green lights Shani Abeysekara's fundamental rights petition. Was the IGP delegated certain powers of the National Police Commission? Number registered under Sajin Vasa's name among those in calls received by Maithripala Sirisena, warning of Easter Sunday attacks. CID begins recording statements. Did power sector trade unions act to reduce electricity tariffs or protect benefits?
And on to those stories in detail. In your top story this evening, is the current administration operated from Palavatta? Is the government ruling through political vengeance? These were among the sharp questions raised during Newsfirst 10 Questions program, where Tilvin Silva, General Secretary of the JVP, offered his clarifications. The interpretation that a single individual is steering everything is simply not true. No one can govern that way. The reality is that we now have a government in place. Decisions are made collectively by the President and the Cabinet of Ministers. Implementation is carried out by ministers, parliamentarians and public officials working together. However, since this is an NPP-led government, we too, as part of the National People's Power, have both the space and the responsibility to contribute. It is our duty to present proposals, support governmental functions, devise strategies and take necessary actions to ensure that the government operates effectively and in line with the principles we stand for. In that case, within the NPP, our operations committee regularly convenes. These meetings take place in Palavatta. Similarly, the Central Committee of the JVP also meets in Palavatta, as does the NPP Operations Committee. When we gather, the President is present along with the Prime Minister and several ministers. Additionally, there are individuals from the NPP leadership who do not hold formal positions in the government but are still part of these discussions, myself included. During these meetings, we engage in dialogues where we address shortcomings, discuss future plans and propose solutions. These discussions lead to agreements on how to move forward. So, in a broader sense, yes, Palavatta is indeed central to our coordination in running the government, and that is a fact. Yes, it is. The significance of Palavatta is not due to the building itself, but because it is where we gather. In truth, Palavatta serves as the primary operational hub for the NPP. It is the same for the JVP as well. However, the narrative that there is a single individual sitting in Palavatta with a phone in hand controlling the government from a distance as if one person is solely responsible for governing is pure exaggeration. That's simply not the reality. Such claims have no basis, and in fact, there is no need for anyone to even entertain the idea of the government being governed in that manner.
Palavatta දේශපාලන පලි ගැනීමකද?
Those who claim that the government is being run from Palavatta are the ones spreading that rumor too. We are in Palavatta, but we are not engaged in such activities. What preoccupies our minds every day from morning to night is not political revenge, but the future of this country. When we wake up in the morning, we think about how to move this nation forward, what obstacles stand in our way and how to overcome them. We have no strong political enemies. Our political adversaries have already disbanded themselves and they cannot be rebuilt. Those who oppose us are not in a position to rise again.
The Supreme Court granted permission to proceed with the hearing of fundamental rights petitions filed by Director of the Criminal Investigation Department Shani Abeysekara and 2 other CID officials. The petitions claim that their arrest by the Colombo Crimes Division without any justifiable reason and subsequent remand violated their fundamental rights.
The petitions were considered before a 3-judge bench of the Supreme Court comprising Justices Mahinda Samyawardana, Priyantha Fernando and Sobita Rajakaruna.
Senior Superintendent of Police Shani Abesekara, along with then police inspectors Sudat Mendis and HD Prematilaka, filed the fundamental rights petitions. Attorney at Law Shanta Jayawardena, appearing for Shani Abesekara, clarified the circumstances his client had faced. Key points raised included the following. Just 4 days after Gotabaya Rajapaksa was elected president in November 2019, Shani Abesekara, who was serving as director of the Criminal Investigation Department, was transferred to serve as the personal assistant to the Deputy Inspector General of Police in the Southern Province. At that time, investigations under Abesekara's leadership were underway into several high-profile cases, including the Easter Sunday terror attacks, the assassination of journalist Lasantha Vikramatunga, the abduction of journalist Keith Noya, the attempted murder of journalist Poddala Jayantha, the abduction and killing of journalist Prageet Ignaligoda, and the assault on Divine editor Upali Tendakon. Following the transfer on the 7th of January 2020, Shani Abesekara was suspended from duty. On the 31st of July 2020, officers from the Colombo Crimes Division arrested Abesekara and several others, alleging that they had fabricated false evidence in a case filed against former Deputy Inspector General Vas Gunawardena. After nearly 10 months in remand custody, they were released on bail based on advice from the Attorney General. At the time of the arrest, no credible evidence had been presented by the Colombo Crimes Division to support the allegations. The petitions emphasized that the arrest of Shani Abesekara and the 2 other officers was politically motivated, unlawful and carried out with malice. Attorney at Law Shehanti Silva and Hafil Fariz, appearing for Sudat Mendis and HD Prematilaka, revealed that their clients had been pressured by the Colombo Crimes Division to testify against Shani Abesekara. They stated that their refusal to comply led to their arrest and remand without any justifiable reason. The respondents named in the petitions include then Senior Deputy Inspector General of Police for the Western Province, Deshabandhu Tennakon, former Assistant Superintendent of Police Neville De Silva of the Colombo Crimes Division, and a police inspector from the same division. Attorney at Law Sanjeeva Veeravikrama, representing the respondents, argued that the arrests followed investigations into the fabrication of evidence in the case against Vas Gunawardena and were carried out in accordance with judicial orders. He rejected claims of politically motivated arrests, stating that no supporting evidence had been presented to the court. Senior State Counsel Sajit Bandara, appearing for the Attorney General, clarified that the Attorney General had no involvement in the arrest process and had advised the police to release the petitioners due to insufficient grounds for prosecution. After reviewing the submissions, the 3-judge bench of the Supreme Court ruled that a hearing should be held to determine whether the fundamental rights guaranteed under Articles 12(1) and 13(1) of the Constitution had been violated. After reviewing the submissions, the 3-judge bench of the Supreme Court ruled that a hearing should be held to determine whether the fundamental rights guaranteed under Articles 12(1) and 13(1) of the Constitution had been violated. The court ordered that objections, if any, be filed by the 12th of January and counter-objections by the 12th of February. The petitions will be taken up for hearing on the 14th of May 2026.
The national organizer of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna MP Namal Rajapaksa said in Parliament that Sri Lanka police should be independent. He emphasized that the National Police Commission must be allowed to function independently.
Recently, everyone has been talking about the politicization of the police. In fact, it was you who spoke about it the most when we were in the ruling party. The power vested upon the National Police Commission is to be given to the IGP. What exactly is the expectation here? Is it to serve the public or to catch thieves? Just recently, 32 animals were stolen from the zoo. It is high time that Sri Lanka police functioned independent. There is no argument about that. Therefore, if a police commission has been appointed, it should be allowed to handle police transfers and administrative matters. Why interfere politically? Right now, the entire police department is being used as a tool of the government. That's why we urge the current IGP to study the history of this institution and understand what happened to former police chiefs who became politically aligned. Please put an end to the politicization of the police force.
MP Namal Rajapaksa made this statement during a parliamentary session held in response to a request by opposition leader Sajith Premadasa and the Samagi Jana Balawege for a debate on the police commission. The opposition argued that the power to transfer police officers had been delegated to the Inspector General of Police by the police commission.
පොලිස් කොමිසමේ ස්වාධීනත්වය තහවුරු කිරීම වහාම පාර්ලිමේන්තුව මැදිහත් විය යුතුයයි අපි යෝජනා කරනවා.
I suggest convening a party leaders meeting and holding the debate tomorrow. This evening, the Minister of Public Security will be involved in a special discussion on drug trafficking, including heroin. Relevant officials will be present, so let's debate this tomorrow.
හදිසි යෝජනාවක් බවට පත් කරේ මොකද දැන් හෙට පොලිස් කොමිසම ඉඳ ගන්න. අපි දන්නේ නැහැ මොනවා වෙයිද කියලා. මොකද ඒ තරම් බලපෑමක් ඒගොල්ලන්ට තියෙනවා. මේක පොලිස්පතිට දෙන්න කියලා. ඒ නිසා අපි මද්ද්‍රව්‍ය වගේම මේකත් වැදගත් කාරණයක් රටේ.
Earlier today, the Samagi Jana Balawege argued in Parliament that the power to transfer police officers had been handed over to the IGP.
අද වෙනකොට 30 දෙනෙක් මාරු කරලා තිනවා කිසිම හේතුවක් නැතුව. ඒ වගේම සීනියර් DIGs මාරු කරලා තිනවා කිසිම වැඩපිළිවෙලක් නැතුව. මේක මෙහෙම ගියොත්
ව්‍යවස්ථා පිළිබඳ කාරක සභාව අංක 126 ස්ටෑන්ඩින් ඕඩර් ආණ්ඩුක්‍රම ව්‍යවස්ථා පිළිබඳ කාරක සභාවට මේක යොමු කරලා අපි මේ ප්‍රශ්න විසඳගන්න ඕන.
අපි අවබෝධ කරගන්නට ඕන.
We must understand that Sri Lanka is not a police state. It is a democratic country. In a democracy, checks and balances must exist. The police commission cannot be turned into a puppet of the government.
කරගන්නට බෑ. ඒක පඹයක් කරගන්නට බෑ.
බොරු බීතියක් හදන්න යන්නේ.
There is no need to create false fear. We are acting in accordance with democratic principles. The people have given us the mandate. These transfers were done by the police commission. If there is any injustice, there should be a mechanism to appeal. That is all.
ප්‍රශ්නේ තියෙන්නේ මොකක් හරි අසාධාරණයක් කරනවා නම් කාට හරි කොමිසමෙන් කරපු දෙයක්
මේ කාරණාව
අභියාචනා කරන තරක් නැහැ. එච්චරයි. සභාව නොමග යවන්න දෙන්න බෑ කරු කතානායකතුමා පොලිස් කමිසම කරලා නැහැ කිසිම මේ ට්‍රාන්ස්ෆර් එකක්. දැන් පොලිස් කමිසම බලන්න ඉන්නවා. ඒ ට්‍රාන්ස්ෆර් කරපු පොලිස් සේවයේ ස්වාධීනත්වය.
This shows a move toward authoritarianism. The commission has never delegated its powers to the IGP. As a former minister of police, I can confirm we never interfered. Recent transfers were made outside the commission's authority.
පොලිස් කොමිසමම පොලිස්පතිවරට බලය පැවරුවොත් පොලිස්පතිවර එහෙම දෙයක් කරාම කොමිසමට අභියාචනා කරන්න පුළුවන්. ඉතින් කොමිසමම කැමැත්තෙන් ඒ බලය පවරුන පොලිස්පතිවරයාට මොකක් හරි අසාධාරණයක් කරනවා නම් කාට හරි අභියාචනා කරන්න කොමිසමකුත් තියෙනවා. ඒ නිසා කවුරුත් බය වෙන්න එපා ඒකට. ඔබතුමාලා කලබල වෙන්නත් එපා, බය වෙන්නත් එපා.
තමන්ට තියෙන බලය ඩෙලිගේට් කිරීමේ අයිතිය පොලිස් කොමිසමට ව්‍යවස්ථාවෙන්ම ලබා දීලා තියෙනවා.
The Police Commission is a constitutionally established body. It has the authority to delegate its powers, but such delegation must come from the Commission itself, not from the President or Parliament. Currently, only one member of the Commission has been appointed. The rest are from the previous government under Ranil Wickremesinghe. So discussing this in Parliament could exert undue pressure on the Commission and its operations.
ඇත්තටම මේ වගේ ප්‍රශ්නයක් පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේ සාකච්ඡා කිරීමම තමයි පොලිස් කොමිසමට කරන බලපෑම වෙන්නේ.
Has the Police Commission delegated certain powers to the Inspector General of Police? Newsfirst inquired about this from the National Police Commission. Here is the Commission's response. Quote,
No final decision has been made in this regard so far. Currently, appointments, promotions, removals and transfers of officers from officers in charge up to senior deputy inspector generals are handled by the National Police Commission. The responsibility of officers from constable to inspector level is delegated to the IGP. In some cases, sub-inspectors, inspectors and chief inspectors function as OICs. The IGP has requested authority over appointments and transfers related to these positions. The Commission has established a procedure for this, and any such appointments or transfers must follow that process. If anyone acts outside of this framework, appeals can be submitted to the Commission, which will take appropriate action. According to the Constitution, the Commission has the authority to delegate such powers to the IGP. If the IGP acts unilaterally, the Commission can revoke those powers through a Gazette notification.
End quote.
The opposition led by Samagi Jana Balawege has criticised in Parliament the appointment of Director General of the Commission to investigate allegations of bribery or corruption, who is currently conducting investigations into a number of serious fraud and corruption cases.
Speaking in Parliament on Tuesday, Samagi Jana Balawege MP Sirasa stated that the name recommended for the appointment of the Director General was proposed to the Constitutional Council by two individuals who were serving as governors at the time. He claimed that this recommendation was politically influenced, as the proposers were appointed governors by the current administration. Today, MP Chamara Sampath Dasanayaka of the New Democratic Front also criticised the Director General of the Bribery Commission in Parliament.
I'm naming him directly, Ranga Disanayaka. I challenge him, Nandana and the JVP crowd. The biggest theft in this country in 2017 was the bond scam involving Arjuna Mahendran, currently in Singapore. But who was in charge then? Ranga Disanayaka. In 2017, he released the passport. Now my passport has been suspended. If Ranga Disanayaka is clean, then he shouldn't be appearing in the media. Legally, he shouldn't even be doing that. But he is making big media appearances. That is fine. But he must say who, as the fourth magistrate in 2017, released Arjuna Mahendran's passport. If it wasn't him, fine. But he must clarify. I have been charged with 3 indictments. I am not afraid to say it.
Following repeated political accusations, Ranga Disanayaka, Director General of the Commission to investigate allegations of bribery or corruption, held a media briefing on the 2nd of October and issued a clear statement.
I don't recall whether there was a travel ban on Arjuna Mahendran. I clearly state that I did not do anything of that sort. Arrest warrants for Arjuna Mahendran, Ravi Karunanayaka and others were issued in 2018 when I was serving as the 4th magistrate. Later they challenged those warrants in the Court of Appeal, claiming they were wrong. But what's being said now never happened. If I committed any wrongdoing as a judicial officer, you can file a complaint with the Judicial Service Commission. Now you can see their true intention. Why are they bringing this up now? Their motive is clear: to erode public trust.
MP Chamara Sampath Dasanayaka's criticism in Parliament of the Director General comes in the context of an ongoing investigation and legal action against him by the Commission related to alleged financial misconduct during his tenure as Chief Minister of the Uva Province. He was previously remanded and is currently out on bail. Amidst various criticisms regarding the appointment of the Director General of the Bribery or Corruption Commission, several legal experts today offered clarifications.
It is very clear that these statements are being made to serve political interests. The Anti-Corruption Act No. 9 of 2023 clearly outlines the procedure for appointing the Director General and the qualifications required. The issue being raised here concerns the legal professional qualifications of the Director General. The law states that the Director General must be a lawyer with at least 15 years of experience and sound knowledge in criminal proceedings. In this case, the current Director General has a well-established background. He practiced privately for a period, specializing in criminal law. He later served as a magistrate and a High Court judge, gaining substantial experience in criminal cases. That is why his name was recommended. The President is required to appoint the Director General based on a name recommended by the Constitutional Council. Accordingly, the President selected him. I see no issue here. If there's a legal concern regarding the definition or interpretation of the law, those raising it should take the matter to the appropriate court. What I see here is a psychological issue. When ordinary people feel fear about their future, their bodies, their existence, that is when they start shouting like this.
තමන්ගේ පැවැත්ම සම්බන්ධයෙන් මිනිස්සු බියට පත් වුනහම තමයි මේ වගේ කෑකෝ ගැසීම් කරන්නේ.
If you look at Section 17 of the 2023 Anti-Corruption Act, the President has no discretion to appoint anyone he personally prefers as Director General. The appointment must be made on a recommendation of the Constitutional Council. Moreover, the President is required to consult the members of the Commission. This shows the appointment process is subject to multiple layers of scrutiny. So why are opposition politicians suddenly making various claims about the Director General? We know that the Commission is currently investigating corruption involving several politicians. Some individuals have already been arrested. It appears that certain individuals may be trying to prevent the law from being enforced against them. Section 118 of the Anti-Corruption Act prohibits insulting the Commission. Section 125 also clearly prohibits obstruction of justice. This means no one can interfere with the Commission's authority or intimidate its officials. Therefore, we can see that the actions of some opposition politicians may fall under sections 118 and 125 of the Anti-Corruption Act. These provisions are designed to protect the Commission from undue influence. That is why I believe the Commission should take action against those making baseless accusations, defamatory statements and politically motivated attacks against the Director General and its officials.
තමන්ට එරෙහිව නීතිය ක්‍රියාත්මක වෙන එක වළක්ව ගන්න ඇතැම් අය උත්සාහ කරනවා වෙන්න පුළුවන්.
This is the Cabinet spokesperson's response.
රජය කරමින් ඉන්නේ
The role of the government is simply to provide facilities and support to institutions like the Bribery Commission or the Criminal Investigation Department. Especially in the case of the Bribery Commission, if anyone raises allegations regarding its operations, the best course of action is for the Director General or the Commission itself to respond directly. It wouldn't be appropriate for the government to intervene and respond on their behalf. What we do is ensure they have the necessary resources to function properly, and from what we see, the officials there are doing their duties effectively. I see nothing wrong in the Director General coming forward to give a response. In fact, he should. Then you'll be able to direct your questions straight to him.
ඔබට පුළුවන් ඍජුවම උන් ප්‍රශ්න කරන්නට.
Former MP Sergeant Divas Gunawardena provided a statement to the Criminal Investigation Department regarding an investigation into phone calls allegedly received by then President Maithripala Sirisena from a foreign intelligence service during the time of the Easter Sunday attacks.
Around 9:30 a.m. Wednesday morning, former MP Sergeant Devas Gunawardena arrived at the Criminal Investigation Department and left after approximately 3.5 hours.
They called me in to give a statement regarding a comment made by Maithripala Sirisena about the Easter attacks. As members of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party, we worked closely with him. So I gave a statement based on that, and now I'm leaving.
The Criminal Investigation Department is conducting an investigation into phone calls allegedly received by Maithripala Sirisena from a foreign intelligence service in connection with the Easter Sunday attacks. Police stated that during the investigation into the relevant phone numbers, analysis reports revealed that calls had also been received from a number belonging to Sergeant Devas Gunawardena. Here is the former MP's clarification on the matter. Quote,
As part of the investigation into the Easter attacks, all phone numbers that contacted Maithripala Sirisena are being examined. One of those numbers was an Indian number I had used. The CID summoned me to verify this.
End of quote.
Newsfirst with the people. Newsfirst, main sponsor.
A trusted place for your fixed deposits. Valuable FD 10.25% for 15 months, 11% for 24 months. Valuable FD, the symbol of stability.
Electrical engineers of the Ceylon Electricity Board have launched a union action to withdraw from supporting the Ministry of Energy based on the restructuring of the Ceylon Electricity Board under the recently passed Electricity Act. Trade unions representing power sector employees affiliated with the Samaki Jan Balavegya, the Sri Lanka Podujana Perumana and the Sri Lanka Freedom Party are also engaging in a work to rule campaign.
But this raises a critical question. Whose benefit are these unions truly acting for? Are these actions meant to reduce electricity tariffs burdening the public, or are they driven by a desire to protect and enhance their own privileges and personal benefits under the guise of public interest?
What really happened to the CEB? From 2015 to 2023, the CEB has been continuously operating at a loss year after year. Let's look at the official data from the CEB's annual reports. 2016, 14,457 million rupees in losses. 2017, 47,581 million. 2018, 31,936 million. 2019, 97,422 million. 2020, 69,164 million. 2021, 34,644 million. 2022, a staggering 309,248 million rupees. In total, between 2014 and 2022, the Ceylon Electricity Board has recorded cumulative losses amounting to 594,360 million rupees. There are, of course, many reasons behind these mounting losses. Unregulated borrowing without accountability, overstaffing driven by political agendas, and unsustainable employee privileges all played their part. Added to that was the failure to revise tariffs in line with rising costs, a decision often influenced more by political convenience than economic reality. And what was the inevitable result? the country was pushed into an economic collapse and Sri Lanka literally plunged into darkness, enduring 10 to 12 hours of daily power cuts. In the end, to fill the financial vacuum that had been ignored for years, authorities imposed a massive 200% hike in electricity tariffs, placing the full weight of the crisis squarely on the shoulders of the ordinary citizen.
5,943,680. This isn't a minor loss. Within this very institution, funds that should have strengthened the organization, money that rightfully belonged to the public, were instead misused for personal benefit by many. It cannot be denied. They cut power for nearly 18 hours a day. When students preparing for their advanced level examinations pleaded for electricity to study, it was denied. But once Parliament approved the tariff hike, suddenly electricity was available 24 hours a day. After years of theft and mismanagement, when the state coffers ran dry, the easiest solution was to dig into people's pockets by raising prices. Without issuing any credible explanations, the cost of essentials shot up by 300%, even 400% in some cases. Then came the energy crisis, the gas shortage and the endless queues. We say this shortage was manufactured.
Why is the Ceylon Electricity Board being restructured? Sri Lanka's path out of the economic crisis came in the form of the Extended Fund Facility Agreement with the International Monetary Fund. The IMF does not hand out lifelines for free. It comes with a stringent set of conditions, a reform roadmap the government must follow. Among the top priorities listed was ensuring cost-reflective electricity pricing. Another key objective was to stabilize the CEB financially, enabling it to manage its debts and operate sustainably without being a perpetual burden on the treasury. But this leads to the real question. Once the CEB starts running efficiently, how will those debts actually be paid off? Will the repayment continue to come directly from the people's pockets, disguised as higher bills? Or will genuine institutional reform make the CEB efficient enough to generate revenue responsibly, balancing profit and loss, repaying debt through performance, and providing electricity to citizens at a fair and sustainable rate?
Electricity is built on three distinct pillars: generation, transmission and distribution. These are not merely stages of a single process, but three separate business models. When all three functions were bundled under one entity, it created layers of inefficiency and regulatory hurdles, and so does identifying where profits are made of and where losses occur. Each segment requires different resources, expertise and asset clarifications. That is why the unbundling of the Ceylon Electricity Board, separating these three sectors into independent operational units.
පිළිබල මණ්ඩලය ජනනය සම්ප්‍රේෂණය බෙදා හැරීම කියන කොටස් තුන කෑලි තුනකින් ඔපරේට් වීම අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම අත්‍යවශ්‍යයි.
How did the restructuring take place? In 2023, the coalition government led by Ranil Wickremesinghe introduced a proposal to restructure the CEB by separating generation, transmission, distribution, trading, supply and procurement into distinct companies registered under the Companies Act. The initial idea was to open these entities to private investment. However, following the Supreme Court's determination, amendments were made to ensure that the majority ownership of these companies would remain under state control, while allowing only a limited share for private investors. Even with these safeguards, trade unions strongly opposed the plan, describing it as a backdoor to privatization. Under mounting pressure, the Wickremesinghe administration could not complete the reform process. During the presidential and parliamentary elections, the now ruling National People's Power emphasized the importance of energy security. Their stated position was that certain key functions must remain wholly under state control, while others could be liberalized. Building on that policy, the current government introduced and passed a new Electricity Act in Parliament. According to the new law, the CEB will be divided into 4 core divisions and 6 state-owned companies will be established to handle separate functions within the sector.
CEB එක loss කියලා කතා කරනකොට අපි
When we talk about losses within the CEB, we have no clear idea where those losses originate. If consumers are paying the correct tariff, how can the board still be in deficit? Who is responsible? The government, the general manager or the transmission division? By unbundling the CEB into several companies, we introduce transparency in accounting. Each company will be accountable for its own financial performance.
මේක ආයතන කීපයකට යනවා නම් එහෙම මේව අතර accounting transparent එකක් එනවා.
Why are trade unions opposing? The core of the opposition from trade unions, including the Ceylon Electricity Board Engineers Union and those aligned with various political parties, lies not so much in the principle of restructuring, but in protecting their existing positions and privileges. Their key demands, submitted directly to the Secretary to the Ministry of Energy, reveal where their priorities lie. Here are some of those demands. Under the new reform framework, chief engineers, electrical engineers and technical officers are reportedly being placed at a lower grade, a move they want reversed. They insist that the title of Chief Executive Officer be changed to Group CEO. Deputy CEO should be renamed Chief Executive Officer. Provincial directors should automatically be appointed as deputy CEOs in the new companies. And finally, that the existing reporting structure beneath these directors must remain unchanged. At first glance, these demands suggest a clear intention to maintain the engineers' dominance within the proposed new entities. What are the demands of other trade unions? Meanwhile, other trade unions representing the broader CEB workforce have made their own list of demands. Settlement of delayed promotions and salary arrears. Integration of the 10,000 rupee monthly interim allowance into the basic salary effective as of December 31st, 2023. A 25% salary increase from the 1st of January 2024, including arrears added to the basic salary. Removal of the 5 million rupee cap on voluntary retirement compensation. Appointment of directors who represent the employees. This institution must be transformed into one that operates efficiently, reduces costs and ultimately provides greater service to the public. These enterprises should not function according to the preferences of those employed within them, but in alignment with national policy and public objectives. That is why I always stress that the government must have a clear, long-term vision to shape policies that turn these institutions into high-performing, accountable entities. Of course, the views of the trade unions can and should be heard, but policy cannot be built solely on their demands. After all, the salaries of public sector employees are paid by the taxpayers of this country. Therefore, these institutions must operate in a manner that serves the taxpayers' interests, not merely the interests of the employees. When restructuring takes full effect, one of the key expectations is that electricity tariffs will eventually decrease. That can only happen through greater efficiency and healthy competition within the sector. By improving efficiency and introducing competition among the new companies, particularly in power generation. When multiple generation companies compete to supply electricity at the most competitive prices, consumers stand to benefit. At the same time, increasing efficiency in transmission and distribution will help minimize losses across the network.
Sri Lanka's path to economic recovery hinges on private sector-led growth and urgent reforms in public spending. Gabog Sargasyan, country manager for the World Bank Group in Sri Lanka, highlighted that the government has no fiscal space in the public sector, meaning it lacks the capacity to deploy its own investments to stimulate growth.
Currently in Sri Lanka, there is no fiscal space in the public sector. In other words, government doesn't have opportunity to use its own investments, public sector investments, to facilitate growth. Hence, private sector-led growth is the only viable option for Sri Lanka for the time being. One of the biggest challenges we see in Sri Lanka is how it spends its public money. Currently, about 80% of government spending is allocated to public sector salaries, welfare programs, and interest payment. And while there is limited room to drastically increase or cut overall public expenditure, there is significant potential to improve the efficiency and impact of existing spending, creating room for growth-enhancing investment in infrastructure, education, and health. Public investment in public sector wages reform can ensure that every rupee of public money is spent well and delivers more for the people. Public investment needs to be well targeted and inclusive, ensuring that all Sri Lankans benefit from development and the resources are used wisely. By focusing on smarter spending, meaningful reforms, and inclusive growth, Sri Lankans can look forward to stronger, more resilient recovery. And we, the World Bank Group, stands ready to support Sri Lanka in this journey.
In a heartfelt and impactful initiative to mark Breast Cancer Awareness Month, Museus College Colombo launched its special program Pink Wednesday, an inspiring step towards advocacy, education and early detection of breast cancer.
Generation, unafraid to take charge of their health. Our collective promise. With awareness, unity, and compassion, we choose to make a difference.
In what is believed to be a first-of-its-kind initiative in Sri Lanka, Museus College Colombo became the first school to launch Pink Wednesday Breast Cancer Awareness Program. Students and staff will wear pink in solidarity on every Wednesday of the month, while awareness sessions and activities would educate the school community under this program. Believed to be the first of its kind in Sri Lanka and possibly worldwide, the program sets a bold precedent for student-led health advocacy.
We talked of 15 people being diagnosed every day and 3 people dying. For anyone listening to these figures, it's just numbers. But to some of you, even in this audience, these numbers mean something, because it could be one of our loved ones who has a cancer. Can be breast cancer, can be any other cancer. So it affects all of us. So the same way, all the ladies who are sitting in front, we've had experiences with cancer.
I firmly believe that we should not always wait for the government or local bodies to initiate or engage in charitable projects. We too, as responsible citizens, have a role to play. Instead of criticizing those who do nothing, let each one of us contribute in whatever way we can towards the development of our communities. We have ensured that breast cancer awareness campaign is not confined to just the month of October. Today, we can clearly see the impact of our efforts, reminding everyone of the importance of TLC, Touch, Look, Check.
The program was organized in collaboration with the Roshan Mahanama Trust and the Indira Cancer Trust, with the goal of promoting awareness and understanding of breast cancer among students, staff and the wider community. Through Pink Wednesday, Museus College hopes to reinforce a powerful message that early detection of breast cancer would save lives. Pink Wednesday will be held monthly, serving as a reminder that awareness is the first step in the fight against breast cancer.
On to international news. British Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer has said the UK will not relax visa rules for India, speaking before he arrived in the country to tout the benefits of a recent trade agreement. The Prime Minister is leading a delegation of more than 100 entrepreneurs, cultural leaders and university vice-chancellors as he attempts to boost UK investment and improve sluggish economic growth. Sir Keir said there were massive opportunities to improve trade and cultural ties with India. But he said there were no plans to open up more visa routes to Indian workers or students.
British Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer arrived in Mumbai today for his first official visit to India. Upon arrival at the Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj International Airport in Mumbai, he was received by Maharashtra Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis, Deputy CMs Eknath Shinde and Ajit Pawar, and Maharashtra Governor Acharya Devvrat. This is Prime Minister Starmer's first official visit to India. In a unique gesture, UK Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer welcomed passengers aboard British Airways Flight 9100 to Mumbai via an in-flight announcement from the cockpit.
In the cockpit, and a very warm welcome to BA Flight 9100 to Mumbai. It's really fantastic to have you all on board. This is the biggest trade mission to India that the UK has ever sent. So I'm much looking forward to working with you as we explore all of the opportunities and take full advantage of the opportunities in our new free trade agreement. So safe flight everybody, enjoy the flight, and I'll give you further information once I've taken off. Thank you.
A natural. Did you say when I'm taking off?
During the two-day visit, PM Starmer and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi are expected to review progress under the India-UK Comprehensive Strategic Partnership through the Vision 2035 roadmap, a 10-year plan covering trade and investment, technology and innovation, defence and security, climate and energy, health, education and people-to-people ties. The Prime Minister has travelled to Mumbai with 125 business chiefs, cultural leaders and university bosses in what Downing Street has dubbed the UK's largest ever trade mission to the country. The Prime Minister wants businesses to use the trade deal as a launchpad for growth because it offers vastly reduced Indian tariffs for many UK industries.
This is the biggest trade mission that the United Kingdom has ever sent to India. This is a two-parter, if you like. We had Prime Minister Modi over to the United Kingdom earlier this year. That FTA is really important for us. It's the biggest deal that we've struck since we left the EU. This is the biggest trade mission that the United Kingdom has ever sent to India. Obviously, this is a two-parter, if you like. We had Prime Minister Modi over to the United Kingdom earlier this year to sign the FTA, the free trade agreement that we agreed, and today is the return leg of that, if you like. That FTA is really important for us. It's the biggest deal that we've struck since we left the EU, and I think it's the biggest deal that India has ever struck, so hugely important.
Posting on X, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi officially welcomed his British counterpart to Mumbai, emphasising on advancing the shared vision of a stronger and a mutually prosperous future. British Prime Minister will meet his Indian counterpart tomorrow at the Raj Bhavan as part of the process to strengthen India-UK strategic partnership. They will attend the CEO Forum and the 6th edition of the Global FinTech Fest in the city. Meanwhile, British Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer today took part in a football showcase event organised by the English Premier League in Mumbai, highlighting sports diplomacy between the UK and India. Starmer, who arrived from London earlier in the day, visited the Cooperage football ground in South Mumbai amid tight security. The event aimed to deepen bilateral ties through football and encourage youth participation in the sport. Former England international Michael Owen also attended, joining local footballers and young enthusiasts at the event.
On to more news, overseas talks aimed at ending the ongoing Gaza conflict have entered their third day today in Egypt, bringing together key international figures and representatives from both Israel and Hamas in a bid to secure a ceasefire and pave the way for the release of hostages. U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, President Donald Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner, and Israel's chief negotiator Ron Dermer have joined the talks in Sharm el-Sheikh alongside prominent regional figures, including Qatar's Prime Minister Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdul Rahman Al Thani and Turkey's intelligence chief Ibrahim Kalin. The discussions, which have focused on Trump's 20-point peace plan, are seen as a critical juncture for the Middle East. peace process. With a track record of failed negotiations in the region, the mood on the ground is one of cautious optimism mixed with skepticism. Gaza's 48 hostages and thousands of civilian casualties alongside the humanitarian crisis have heightened the pressure for tangible outcomes from this round of talks. Despite ongoing talks, questions remain about whether the conflicting demands of both parties can be reconciled and whether the new momentum in the negotiations can lead to an enduring solution. The ninth match of the 2025 ICC Women's Cricket World Cup between Australia and Pakistan got underway at the R. Premadasa International Cricket Stadium. Now batting first, Australia were bowled out for 221 runs. In reply, Pakistan were bowled out for 114 runs and Australia won the game by 107 runs. Now a reminder that all matches are being broadcast live on TV1, the official local broadcasting rights holder of the 2025 ICC Women's Cricket World Cup, and streamed online via www.sirasatv.lk.
The 2025 ICC Women's Cricket World Cup is co-hosted by India and Sri Lanka this year. The encounter between the two sides is the third match of the tournament for the two sides. Entering the tournament as favourites, winning the World Cup 7 times, the Australian side is led by Alyssa Healy with key players Ashley Gardner, Kim Garth, Heather Graham, Beth Mooney and Elena King also included in the squad. In the first game of the tournament, Australia defeated New Zealand by 89 runs. Their second game against co-host Sri Lanka was called off due to rain without a ball being bowled. Australia sit third on the points table on 3 points. Pakistan, on the other hand, are led by Fatima Sana. The Pakistani squad also includes key players Diana Bain, Alia Riaz, Muniba Ali, Sadia Iqbal and Sidra Amin. Pakistan lost their first 2 games and sat at the bottom of the points table without any points under their belt. Australia has won all 5 of the most recent one-day international matches played between the two teams. The encounter between the two sides kicked off at 3 p.m. today. Entry to all Women's World Cup matches at the R. Premadasa Stadium in Colombo is free of charge. All matches are being broadcast live on TV1, the official local broadcasting rights holder of the 2025 ICC Women's Cricket World Cup, and streamed online via www.sirasatv.lk. Cristiano Ronaldo became the first billionaire footballer, according to the Bloomberg Billionaires Index, reaching a net worth of $1.4 billion. His move to the Al Nassr club in Saudi Arabia secured him one of the largest contracts in football history and the highest average annual salary.
It's 35 yards and more. Too far for Ronaldo to think about.
And that's a wrap of your news for tonight.
Thank you for watching.
Good night.